everybody. Today we're going to be doing some stuff here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up Photoshop. You can follow along on your Windows device, or you can follow along on your Mac device. When I say device, I mean a computer. These apps only works on an actual desktop. So if you have a MacBook Pro, or if you have a Windows PC, or even if you have anything running Mac OS, these programs will work. So we're going to start with Photoshop. Now, if you want to open your document, you can, but I already have it here. So I've saved it to my desktop. What we're talking about today is going to be a color splash. So this is going to be pretty much where you make just the color appear and not anything else other than the area that you want. So in my case, what I'm going to do for this photo is I'm going to use just the petals and the stem here. This is what I want to show through. So the first thing we're going to do in Photoshop is we're going to go to New Layer Adjustment, and we're going to go to Channel Mixer. From Channel Mixer, we're going to select OK. And we're going to go to Monochrome. Now from here, depending on the range that you choose, this is the one thing I've learned in Photoshop is if you want it light, it'll stay light. If you want it darker, wait, I think darker was lower, right? Darker is the full. Yeah, darker is the full on the lower spectrum. And then the lighter spectrum, you get it lighter. So what I want to do is lighter. But I don't want to spend forever having to go doing this over and over and over with the mouse. So what I'm going to show you is a little bit of a quicker way to do it in Photoshop. Oh yeah, I need to make this bigger. So quick selection tool can be wonderful in Photoshop sometimes, but depending on the dark areas, it may pick up more than it needs to. But this is a faster route to do it with your subject in Photoshop. And I will be showing you Pixelmator here when we're done with Photoshop. So I've learned through trial and error just using this photo before doing the video that this area comes out too dark, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so we want to go ahead and get as much in as we can, right? All right, here we go. Let's see, will I be able to get the lower? Nope. So we know that the lower one is going to give us an issue. Nope. Okay, so let's try. No, I don't want to maximize it. I suppose. Okay. I don't know how that happened, but let's try. Nope. All right, well, let's see. Can we get the stem? Nope. And let's see. Can we do this? Nope. All right, so we got as much as we can, right? And we see that there's some little jagged edges here. We can maybe make the brush lower. The reason why I'm not showing you or doing little quick things here and there on the Stream Deck is because you won't be able to see it and what to click if I don't show you manually. So if you have a Stream Deck, you can customize certain, I want to say, key bindings or shortcuts or specific keys to do a combination to just push a button and it changes it for you. But the reason why I'm showing you manual is so that way you're able to see what you need to. Now, if you want to refine these, you can. I mean, we're using a very small brush, so we can do that. But we can always zoom in as well. What I've learned with Photoshop is it can be precise, but depending on between the contrast between light and dark, it may be a little hard for it to pick up on most of it, especially if the colors kind of run on or blend, even when it's like this. So grab what you can to be fast and efficient. And then the rest, as we've learned, we'll just kind of wait for. I know I'm going to have to come back to that, but that's fine. Okay. So from here, we can be very quick about it. I kind of want to keep it slightly light. So we're going to do this. We're going to go to our brush tool, which is right here. You know what? I want to make the brush bigger, just so that way we can do bigger strokes. And this is how you can do a color splash. But you're going to be wondering, what about the bottom? Don't worry, we're going to get to that. So as long as you don't change your level on what you're choosing, it's not going to come out with different colors. It's going to pretty much be like the previous photo. But you can change the lighting. Like if I want to go super light, I can. But I'm going to leave it where it's at so that way the photo is consistent. All right. And now we're going to deselect. So if you're on a Mac, you can select Command and D and it'll deselect. Or, where is it? I think you have to... Oh yeah, I guess you do have to do deselect. Okay, so Command and D. And then from here, now that we have more freedom, we can just start working on the petals here. Don't worry if you basically color over the area here with the brush and get green or whatever it is in your background, because we can actually fix that with an eraser tool. I'm going to show you how to do this in Pixelmator as well. So let's get our eraser tool. And the reason why it's so small is because I kind of already had this set up the way that I wanted. I suppose we can go right here. And so we can just brush that green out, that green and yellow. Because what we really wanted was the pink, right? We just wanted the flower to stand out, the beautiful water lily here. And so you can just manually go in, I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. You can manually go in here and then fine-tune it by erasing all the extra stuff you don't need. So what you kind of want to see is just the gray and the blacks and the whites. That way you're able to see the pink and you're able to gauge where the cutoff is. So that way you're not having that, you know, extra green that makes the photo look kind of meh for a color splash. And when I say meh, I mean like it just doesn't flow well with the photo when you're doing a color splash. Okay. So you want to make sure that all of the gray area is captured. Most photographers will use a matte screen. I highly recommend it. And there is other apps for iOS devices or handheld devices like Android, etc. I won't cover those because I don't do color splash on them. Even though there's an array of apps and you can use your finger to do it, I won't use them. I like precision, so I like to make sure that when I'm doing it, my work, I'm able to see it on a bigger screen. I'm able to zoom in and see everything. That way I can see if I missed an area here, like see how it's still got a little bit of a green tint. We don't want that. So we can scroll down here. And I'm using a trackpad. So for me, doing these are very fluid, very easy. If you're on a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air or MacBook in general, there's a trackpad. If you're doing it on a Windows computer, if you have a mouse, the mouse is going to be great. If you are using a laptop, most laptops have a trackpad. You can do it, but I don't know how the gestures are going to work on it. But this is why I prefer a Mac when it comes to doing art. I can tell you the trackpad is wonderful to use because I can use my fingers to do it, which is great. And, you know, I'm not clicky, clicky, clicky with a button. Although I do like clicky buttons. I do have a mechanical keyboard and I love that thing. But I only use that when I'm running Windows 10 on here through Boot Camp. And that's mainly when I'm doing like my gaming, my streaming on live streams or whatever. All right. So see how we're kind of going over the flower? And you want to do this whether you're doing this in Photoshop or Pixelmator. You just kind of want to fine-tune your photos so that way your photo doesn't have that weird green glow. And in my case, that's what I'm doing. But if you're lucky enough that your subject has lots of defined edges, then you may not have to worry about this as much as I do. But when I do flowers, I can tell you green is like my common thing. I have to go in there and literally take the time to go in here and smooth things out just to make sure that the extra color doesn't bleed onto the photo, especially with the color splash. But it's pretty quick. I mean, you know, I might leave the orange in because you can't, it's pink. So I don't really care too much if the orange is there. I'm more so worried about the green because you can see it glow and it's more obvious with the green. Now, the beauty of using the computer is you can view it, zoom in. I'm trying to say view and zoom at the same time and it's just not coming out. But you can zoom in, that way you're able to see these things. And the reason why I recommend a matte screen for people who are editing on a computer is anti-glare. You're not going to get some glossiness or whatever. I had an iMac. You know, I loved my iMac. Rest in peace, it died. But it was a glossy screen. And that's the one downfall about it I didn't like. And now I have matte screens, external monitors hooked up to a Mac Mini. And it is wonderful. Now I'm not using 4K or anything, but you're able to see these things. Now when we zoom out of this photo, when we're done, I think we're done. Oh, yeah, it looks like we're done up here and around here, so we need to go back down here. So you can kind of gauge it, you know, when you zoom out, zoom back in, you're able to see these things. So you see how this has a slightly green area here, but not up here. So it looks like I got most of it. All right. So you want to make sure that you're not really going over the pink too much, but more so the outline of it right here, where the colors look a little off. And the reason why I'm zooming in is because I want to be precise about that crazy glow so it doesn't look dingy on the outside. But also it doesn't ruin the color splash or look like it doesn't, like a lack of effort is the word I want to use when it comes to doing my artwork. I like it to look nice and clean. And that's why I'm going over it this way. So you can see even in the gray how the green kind of goes over it a bit and it looks almost greenish orange. And it makes this weird, ugly, like gray orange color. So that's why you want to go through it and zoom in, just to make sure you're getting all that extra stuff that shouldn't be there. But this is a lot quicker than doing it one at a time, petal by petal, doing the same thing zoomed in, just to make sure that you're only getting that one spot. This is a quicker way to do it and a quicker way to edit it. So, you know, if you have a subject with sharper lines that are more defined, then you might actually not have to worry about doing this too much. But if you're doing what I'm doing, photos of flowers, etc., you want to make sure that you're taking that time, that little extra time to go in and remove the extra stuff that you don't need. So we started here, so it looks like we're just working our way. Now I haven't changed the size of the brush, I'm just changing the size of the photo as we're zooming in, zooming out to make sure that we're getting all of this extra stuff here. And I can tell you the workflow between Pixelmator and Photoshop. For PC users, Photoshop is going to be the only program that can do this way. But with Mac users, they have an array of programs specifically tailored to compete with Photoshop price-wise. One I haven't tried yet that I would love to purchase, but I just don't have the funding and the budget for, is Affinity. Apparently Affinity is supposed to be like a Photoshop replacement, which would mean, you know, a monthly subscription goodbye. But I like using Photoshop. I'm familiar with Photoshop. So from what I hear, it'll be an easy transition. It's just relearning a few things. Should I ever come to purchase it, I will include Affinity on here, but I just don't have that as a program that I've purchased yet. But Pixelmator is supposed to also be the equivalent of a Photoshop replacement. And it is very affordable. It's a very budget-friendly program. I bought it when it first came out and it was on sale. So, you know, when that program does go on sale, if you are a Mac user, I would recommend grabbing that as a good way to try something new. And maybe it's fun, you know, it's a lot of fun. That's probably the best way I want to explain it. It's a fun program to use, and it's very efficient. But because I live in Photoshop when it comes to my photos, including Lightroom, I prefer it. But I do love Pixelmator for its convenience on other things, as I showed you in the last video. So this is the photo. This is the final product. So I'm actually going to save this because I'm going to use this as my thumbnail. So we're going to save as. I'm going to name this flower JPEG. And right, so we're going to save it to the desktop. Right, so that's Photoshop for you on doing a color splash. And it was fairly quick. But now, no, I don't want to save because we already saved it. So now we can actually close out of Photoshop, right? We've already exported our photo. Here's our final. That's Photoshop for you. Now let's go to Pixelmator. Pixelmator, I had to learn the way that the Pro version is versus the regular version. There's two versions. There's a Pro version, and then there's a regular version. I use the Pro version. So from here, oh, look, it already had it loaded. This is nice. So from here, we have to duplicate our layer. Here we go, duplicate. And from here, I want to go to, oh, why did I do that? Here we go, desaturate. It takes me a moment because it's a very different process here. No, it's not this one. Oh, there we go. It's this one. So we're going to desaturate the entire photo, right? So we're just going to color over it. This is why the brush is so big. We just need it desaturated. Now in Pixelmator, we're going to go to, I think it's format, yeah, and add a mask. So this is a little different, but it's just like Photoshop. It's just a couple of different steps. So from here, what I'm going to do, let's see, where's my quick selection tool? So this tool here that I showed you the last time, you know what, I'm going to make my brush bigger just because it'll be a lot quicker. So let's start. We're going to select what we want. We're in the second layer. We're not touching anything on the first layer. The first layer is basically going to project just the colors that come through, which is fine. But we're going to basically grab what we want in our photo. And I love using this program because you can see what you're grabbing. And I think this picks up on depth of field a lot better than Photoshop. But as you saw, Photoshop is pretty quick. So you kind of go over it, but you see how it kind of already grabs certain things. It's pretty content aware. And that's the one thing I do love about this program is the content awareness. I know Photoshop has some content aware stuff, but I can say that where Pixelmator Pro is, as far as picking this up, it's a lot more ideal. And that's okay that we did that. You see how it's picking up on the petals? It wouldn't have done that on Photoshop. So we can go back in there, and as I mentioned, we can always erase it, so it's totally fine. And we want to capture the stem. So it's a pretty smart program. It kind of gets the idea of what you want to do. And now we want to subtract. Okay, cool. So that wasn't supposed to be there, right? So it's subtracting that. And so if you look, it made our workflow a lot quicker. Oh, look at that. Ah, I like. See, this is why I like it. It does it very quickly. So now we need to go to our paintbrush. Oh, if I remember this correctly, it did it funny for me. Okay, so that's the darker one. We don't want it too dark, right? Okay. I know you can change it. I just don't remember how. I know with Photoshop, that's the one thing I did like was I could switch it. Okay, let's go back here. Paint. Okay, well, you know what? We'll just figure it out when we're done. I think we can lighten it. I just don't remember how to do that in Pixelmator. I know Pixelmator can do this, but one thing I liked about Photoshop is I knew the between the lighter and darker as far as on the color that I wanted. You know what? This brush size is too little. Let's do this. There we go. So it's pulling up the identical color from the original photo, which is fine because that's pretty much what most people do with the color splash anyways, is they want the original photo. So we can deselect. On a Mac it is Command D and it'll go away. So let's go to our eraser tool real quick. And same thing. So we're just going to erase, just like we would in Photoshop, the green. So it takes a little bit longer, although I wish I could have colored it. I want to say, oh yeah, that's totally running on. So sometimes you have to kind of zoom out to kind of figure out what you're doing. There we go. But I wish I knew how to make the colors just a little bit lighter, especially for something like this with a really, really hard pink. I wanted it to be more lighter, more pastel. I'm not sure how to achieve that in Pixelmator yet. But the whole purpose of the video was to show you a color splash. But if you are wanting to control the amount of color that you want to put on there between the boldness, I'm sure there's a feature on here in Pixelmator. We can probably play around and figure it out. But Photoshop is very easy to do that with. So it's a trade-off on certain programs. All right. Let's continue. Yeah, that's a pretty dark green there. But it's from the original photo. Like if I, oh, we missed a spot. So let's go back to our paintbrush. There we go. Let's get our eraser again. There we go. All right. And as you can see, for the most part, it really does really good on edges. I mean, if you really want to, you can just kind of skim along the lines here. All right, so this one, wait, let's go out. Oh, it missed it. Okay, so, and that's okay. I mean, it's a fairly simple thing to go over with the brush. You know what, let's just do it this way, so that way we can get it in there. What we really want to do is get rid of that green anyway. And as you can hear, my finger is literally pushing it against the trackpad. So I know it's taking a moment, but that's okay. But we're doing the same thing. We're just kind of going along the lines here. I'm sure we can maybe change the level of color, kind of like an opacity or something, but I'm wondering if it's going to be just that. Because right now it's 100%. Let's see if we do it this way. Oh wait, that's the eraser. So if I go to the paintbrush, maybe. We'll see. I have a suspicion, but we'll see. Unless it just doesn't make the color come through, then that's not good. But I'm sure it's just a matter of like what you do with the exposure. You slide it along, etc. So I'm sure there's something to do with the lighting for the color. I'm sure we can figure it out. Like in this app, I'm not an expert because I primarily use Photoshop, but I do know that there's some cool little tricks in this app, and since I know them, I don't mind sharing them. All right. I took too much pink. Okay. But you get the idea on doing the color splash. And that's pretty much the color splash in the program. Like I said, with Pixelmator, it is pretty good at grabbing everything more than you need. But, you know, there's a few steps that you have to do in Pixelmator that are different from Photoshop. They are two entirely different apps, so they're going to have different workflows. All right, so we missed this here. You know what, while we have the brush, let's see. Can we make the brush a little normal? Okay, here we go. Oh, okay. It might just be, maybe, let's see here. Oh, now this is coming out a little bit lighter. I wonder if that's what it was. I might have just learned something new while I was showing you all something. Okay, let's figure it out. Here we go. All right. Oh, that looks good. Okay, cool. Not too much of a glow up here. That's good. Oh, there we go. We found our glow. Oh, no, wait, I took off too much. Okay. So now we need to make the brush just a bit smaller. Just so we can go in there in that V and work with it real quick here. Little by little. Oh, darn. Why did I do that? So sometimes I get a little impatient when I'm doing this, thinking I can grab it all, and then I get a little too confident, and then I have to go back and do it. I know it feels like it takes a lot of time, but honestly, it's not a lot of time. But you want to be precise about it. So, you know, take your time. If you have to stop for a moment after doing a stroke of removing something or have to redo something, that's okay. I mean, it's a digital darkroom. The beauty of this is you have the option to click on undo or redo. When I was taking photography back in high school, I had to learn how to do things manually. And when I say manually, I mean an actual camera with film, not digital cards or anything, but film. You had to learn you had to go into a dark room, learn how to wash the film, which involves certain chemicals, rolling the stuff up into that little thing that washes the film in the dark. Like you have to feel around in the dark to do it. And then on top of that, I'm very grateful. I had a wonderful photography teacher. He was amazing. But on top of that, we still have that green glow, so let's go in a little bit more. You have to, in the exposure room, you have to know exactly the time setting, etc. when you're doing the photos. And most of the film I think that we did was processed in black and white. So if we wanted to add what we're doing right now, like a color splash to match it to the colors, we had to go in there and paint it. And when I say paint it, I'm not talking about on Photoshop. I'm talking about by hand. You had to make sure that you were doing the colors as accurate as possible for it to look like a real color photo. I don't think we ever did color in photography. I think it was either black and white, or then we were learning some stuff on Photoshop. But usually it was how to transform and things of that nature. So Photoshop, like I said, I'm very familiar with. But with these new apps coming out and, you know, making the budget friendly for people who can't afford doing certain products monthly or paying for a full license fee, etc. These apps are really wonderful. They're very intuitive, and you know, it's not really necessarily a comparison, but it is to show you that, you know, there is more than one option available to you. And there's even options that I still want to try that right now financially I can't afford to do so. But I heard another, you know, that Affinity program I mentioned, I heard that it can do this too. So I would love to show you a video of that should I ever get a hold of that application. I know it's like 20 something, but you know, even right now, 20 bucks, I've got to save. So here we go. But the reason why I'm trying to just keep it to where the green doesn't glow is because I want it to look very clean. Oh, we took off a little bit more than we should have. Because it's turning to a dark pink, so I still kind of want the pink to blend in with the shadow there, if you can see that in the darkness. Ideally, it's going to be green in the photo, but here it's going to look like a hue of gray and black, which is fine. So we need to maybe make our brush just a little bit smaller. Oh, okay, well I guess I'm zooming in to do this. And yeah, so you can even see here, you know, you can see in pixel the green. All right, but I think we got most of it, so that way we can kind of keep it borderline orange and pink. And now we can zoom out. I think I can make the brush a little bit bigger. I think we're going to give the eraser a little bit of softness. Oh, that's much better. I don't know why I didn't do that earlier, which is fine. Okay. All right, there we go. Now it's not looking like it's green anymore, and the softer that you make it, the more it seems to blend, which is what you want. You know, you don't want to remove the whole color profile. You just want to remove certain colors that you don't want showing up on the photo here. But the reason why I'm doing this and showing you it one by one is because I want you to see how it compares with the Photoshop one that we just finished. And it's going to pretty much look identical, except that this is going to be a little bit more bolder than the other one, which is fine. Unless we can figure out how to change the set. Oh, you know what? It's probably saturation. Never mind. I think I figured out my own dilemma. We can fix this and make it lighter, which is fine. It's just probably an extra step here in Pixelmator, which is totally okay. I'm like, I have ideas going through my head right now. All right, here we go. Now, right now, it just looks like a bunch of, you know, oversized stuff and pixelated stuff and jagged edges. But once we're done zooming in and then zooming out, you'll see the final result. And you already saw that with Photoshop. Alrighty, here we go. But you do want to take your time, as I'm mentioning here. You see how we still have a little bit of green. We want to kind of remove that and keep the pink. But you also want to be mindful of your subject. Your subject may be very different, where you may not have to worry about these things where you go in with an eraser. And that's what you can do. You can use the eraser, you can use the paintbrush. That's what we're doing in Pixelmator right now, just to remove the green. But we're not removing anything on the pink. You know, it's just a few brush strokes. It does take a moment, but you also want to make sure you're doing your work clean. You don't want to post a photo of it being like, oh, okay, I got tired, I gave up. And people look at it and they're like, what's going on with this photo? Why didn't they finish it? You know, you want to look at something nice when you present it. So you want to take your time. You want to take pride in your work. That's probably the best thing I can say when it comes to photography. You want to make it presentable. You want to be proud of it. You don't want to look at it and be like, oh, I could have done better. Oh, I should have done this more. You can always go back to it if you save it as a Photoshop file, and you can go back and fix it. But if you really want to work on something, you want to take the time to do it right the first time. Okay, here we go. So you see how I kind of went over that spot? It's okay, because we can get our brush and we can just go back and color that one spot that we accidentally grayed. Actually, you know what? Let's see here. Oh, I guess the opacity does help. as far as the lighter, the color, and all that stuff. So we're going to go down. We're going to go around the edges here. If you heard my stomach grumbling, I'm sorry, I already ate. I'm still hungry. All right. You never know how sensitive the mics are, especially when you're doing a like video game stream. Nobody can hear those things. But if it is, because they have the music of the video game, etc. But if it's just somebody speaking, it's a little different. It picks up almost every ambient sound. And I could run music in the background, but the truth is, I don't create my own music. So, I mean, I could if I wanted to take the time to do the extra. But I don't mind doing it this way. I get to talk to you all. I get to show you the work that we're doing. And if you mess up, it's an easy thing to fix. The way I see it is, with digital photography, there's not there's not really a way to mess up. You can always go back and fix it. There's always, you know, a workaround. Oh, so this wasn't too bad right here. It got most of it, which is great. Okay, here we go. So those are those. Oh, that wasn't supposed to pop up. I was actually trying to just move to the right here. I don't think I had anything on my notifications anyways that was important, so it's totally fine. Okay, you see this crazy blue? That's from the bokeh, so we want to get rid of that because that will show up. Although I do like the bokeh. Okay, here we go. I think we are done. We can zoom out now. And so that's the end result, right? But as I mentioned, we also want to maybe make it lighter. So we can, I guess, I wonder if I do it from the background layer. Ah, there you go. So if you want to change the color, so this is a little backwards. We discovered it. So if you want to do it lighter, you have to go back to the background layer and adjust. Oh wait, not the tint. You want to adjust the saturation. You can make it lighter. You can make it vibrant and pop. And that's how you'll be able to do the color with the color splash as far as on how dark or light you want it. But we're going to go with that. I think that's pretty similar to what we had with Photoshop. And if we wanted to, we could file, save. And I want to name this Flower 2. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. I don't know if it saves it as a... Oh, it did save it as a JPEG, right? Yeah, no, it saved it as a Pixelmator format. No. So, my bad. We need to go to Export. We want to save it as a JPEG. I'm going to put the best. Now we can save it. And now we can exit out of this. I don't need to save this. Honestly, I don't. But here's our comparison. And you pretty much have the exact same thing. I think we have a little more color from the Pixelmator, but here's the Photoshop version. Here's the Pixelmator version. And it did exactly the same thing, a color splash. That's why I said you do want to take your time, because I'm very happy with the way this came out. And they came out both great. So I want to thank you all for watching, and you all have a wonderful afternoon or evening.